Hey vinyl community, Jeff back again. Gonna show you a little haul that I got recently. Actually, this is 2 or 3 hauls combined, but they're all basically the same category, so I'm gonna throw them in real quick. We're gonna zip through these because I don't want it to take too long, but I've mentioned in recent videos how I just started tinkering with Whatnot, the Whatnot app, and buying stuff on there. And I found some people actually that just, I don't know where they get them from. They have boxes of records and they put them up, and whatever they bid for, they sell. Throw it up for $1. So if you get into a room where there's 20 people and nobody's interested in some of the titles, you can get a lot of records for a lot of cheap money. These, I say a $2 haul. Some of these maybe have been a little bit more, but in general, aside from maybe 1 or 2 cases, which I'll point out, most everything in the stack was under $5 a piece. Most were in the $2 range. So let's get into this. The other thing, one of the guys that I bought the bulk of this from, you know, you look at some of the channels and the channels look really professional. Some of them look really just like do-it-yourself. It's just somebody showing records. You don't always know. And then you got the persons and they'll say, see, this album looks clean. And see, this album looks clean. And you get a brief glance. They're not taking their time to show it. The lighting's not quite right. And I saw a couple records that this particular guy showed that I'm like, that is not clean. That is not very good plus. Just from the brief view that I saw. So I knew that I was taking a chance. I could be getting a lot of scratched up garbage. But for the price, I took a chance. I was pleasantly, I would say I was shocked. The greater majority of the ones that I bought in this stack, a greater majority of them looked unplayed for their age. And they were at least very good plus. So I am well pleased with what I got. But let's jump into this. Again, I'm going to start off. These are some of the ones, for example, Wonderworld by Uriah Heep. This is an album I see all the time that's always beat up and it's always in bad condition. It looks unplayed. Now, I haven't looked it up, but I do think this is probably a reissue and not one of the original 70s, only because it's got a barcode. I don't think barcode started in 74. I could be wrong, but so this could be a later, maybe even an 80s reissue. Still, it looks unplayed. Pleasantly thrilled. Got this again. I think that one was a $2 one. This was the big score when it comes to that particular case. Was I got Abominog by Uriah Heep. This was the only Uriah Heep album in my and my friend's collection in the early 80s. Why? Because of Bob Daisley and Lee Kerslake of Ozzy Osbourne. It's basically the Ozzy connection, and we bought it. So this is the only album, and it was scary to have it. You know, as a Southern Baptist boy growing up, this was not the kind of cover you want to see. And I think, I forget who it was. There's another channel, one of the channels, and they did a recent, was one of those chats, and they did a thing on album covers that that don't match the music. This is one of them. This, you know, you think you're getting something really crazy here. It doesn't. Anyway, so this is literally the only Uriah Heep I was even familiar with in the 80s, period. I didn't start listening to anything else by Uriah Heep until literally in the past couple years I started buying vinyl. This was the only one I had. So this is the one I'm always on the lookout for, and it's the one I never seem to find, and when I do find it, it's really expensive. $2 or less. Yeah, I think this was the $2 one. Maybe a $3 one. Anyway, again, it looked unplayed. It was, I'm going to ultrasonically clean it because it looked unplayed. But the biggest score when it comes to 80s and 80s metal for this particular guy, which he doesn't have a lot of that, but this popped up. No one in the chat room knew who it was. The guy didn't know who it was. I knew who it was. Somebody mislabeled it as to who it was. And I got it, I think, for like about $3 or $4. And that's How To. You're like, How To who? How To is the band by guitar shredder Greg Howe. This guy right here. Which I haven't shown because I got this after I got this. Greg Howe, this is one of those Shrapnel instrumental shredder albums. Loved this back in the day. He's went on to do a lot of stuff and a lot of music in that genre. But he also did this. So similar, if you remember, if you're a fan of this kind of shredder music, one of the other shredder guitar players back in the 80s was Tony McAlpine. He's still around. He's still shredding. He's still amazing. Tony McAlpine did a couple instrumental shredder albums. Then he did a band called McAlpine. Got a singer. Put an album out. It did nothing. Still classic to have. Same thing. How To is a band with a singer, which I think the singer is Howe. So I'm thinking might be a brother. They gotta be brothers. They look identical. I mean, look at that. This guy and the guy below him. Identical. Maybe they're twins. I don't know the details here. Anyway, and I don't know. How To, I think, is the name of the band. I don't think, because the album is called High Gear. I need to stop and look it up. I don't think How To is like the second album. I think that you got How, instrumental stuff, you guys. I haven't stopped to look that up. I knew immediately from the logo, from the name. I never had one of these albums back in the day. I always had just the solo stuff he's done, but I knew immediately who it was. Somebody in the chat room, the guy showed this. He goes, anybody know what this is? I don't know what this is. And I said, it's instrumental guitar stuff like Satriani. Somebody else in the comment in the room said, Steve Howe from Yes. I'm like, no, not Steve Howe, Greg Howe. Anyway, this was the greatest thrill. The album looked like it had a little bit of water damage there, but I'm telling you, it doesn't look played. It is minty fresh. Has the insert and everything. So to me, this was, as far as 80s, obscure 80s metal, this is what blew me away. Everything else I got is classic rock. That was my big score, and maybe that one went for $4. This is one I literally had no idea, and this one did go up a little bit closer. I think it was in the $7 or $8 range. I literally bid on this only because I thought the cover art was cool. Kid Dynamite, not a clue who it was. I don't know why I was bidding. It was late at night. I'm like, yeah, I want that. I have no clue what it is. I glanced at it real quick, and it said it was rock, hard rock. Turns out these guys were in Steve Miller, because on the back it says, we left Steve Miller to do this band, blah, blah, blah. There's some stuff on the back that explains how at least a couple of these guys were in Steve Miller and they went off to do this band. The weird thing I just remember as I got these albums is the guy, when he showed the albums, I don't think he ever showed the back. I don't recall. I would have, you don't know what the style of music is, but that tells me what style of music is. He never showed this to show that there is indeed no Steve Howe in there. So I think that he never showed the back. I bought it strictly for the cover. The other thing about this is it's a white label promo. Again, looked unplayed. The sleeve itself is kind of weathered, but looks brand new. Same with these two. These two, I don't think they've ever been played. I got two albums by the Dregs, industry standard, and he put them up one after the other, and I just, nobody else was bidding on them. Boom. So I got industry standard, unplayed looking, and then Unsung Heroes, which is the one I see all the time, everywhere, and I just have never picked it up. And when it popped up for that price, and now I see practically unplayed, I grabbed it. Now, he threw this up. Some people can do what they like. Robert Palmer. I'm not a big Robert Palmer fan. I know classic Robert Palmer's got some cool stuff. I didn't bid. Nobody bid. It was like $1. Maybe it was $2. Maybe this was a $2 bid. Nobody bid. He said, so he threw up another one, which either maybe I missed or didn't bid on. But anyway, so he came back. He said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the double Robert. He does these two first. He's just trying to get rid of the records. He threw up Robert Plant, Zen and Now. This one I did want. He threw them both up there. I got them both for $2. So I am not complaining. I'll take the Robert Palmer. It looked a little played, but I cleaned it ultrasonically and it looks near mint. So I'm, again, rarely played, I'm assuming. Same with these. I'll say these. This Robert Palmer looked minty fresh. I don't even think I'm going to ultrasonically clean this one. Brand new looking. He also had the shaken and stirred. Again, looks unplayed. And again, this one I think, again, $2, maybe $3. Maybe somebody tried to bid me on it. Pictures at 11. Again, $2 or so. This one did look a little played, and this was the only Robert Palmer I had back in the 80s. Me and my friend had this. I think this is the first one, right? And so we had this. So I was familiar with this. I know the songs from this. I don't know anything from the other two. Was glad to get this. And again, this is a weird one. This literally was the only Led Zeppelin album I had in the 80s. I did have on 8-track Led Zeppelin 2 and maybe Led Zeppelin 1 on 8-track, but never on vinyl. I only ever had Presence on vinyl. So when he threw this up, and this one did go up a little higher. This one probably got closer. It might have even went over 10. I'm not sure. This one did get some bidding on. I did ultrasonically clean it, and it looks really nice. It wasn't really bad, but it has had a little play. That one probably is one of the more costly ones because people did know who it is. I was surprised at how many times even this guy was like, anybody know who this is? This one I bought on a whim, and I'll tell you why. So, Tuff's Enuff by the Fabulous Thunderbirds. When we went to New York a couple months ago, they had this in the thrift store. I went to the thrift store up there, one of the thrift stores, and every one of the records in there was just thrift store fodder. It was your typical $1, $2 thrift store junk. Show tunes, stuff from the 50s, Percy Faith, stuff like that. And they had everything marked at like 10, 20 bucks. I'm like, you're on drugs. You're on drugs. You have to be on drugs. They had this album. It looked brand new, minty fresh. They had it for like, it was under 10. It was maybe 10. Everything was $8, $10 to $20 that was typically $1 or $2 any other thrift store. Out of everything they had, I almost walked out with this, but I'm like, I don't even want to go to the checkout. I don't even want to give this place any bucks for this album, even though it looked brand new, because they don't know what they're doing and they're overpricing. So when this popped up for $1 or $2, I believe, I went ahead and grabbed it. That literally was on a whim. And the reason you do this on Whatnot, you buy one album, it's like $5 shipping. You buy a second album, it's like 78 cents. So obviously you always want to try to buy at least 2 albums just to make it feel like you're paying less shipping. The more you buy, some places max out. Once you hit $9, it doesn't go up anymore. In this case, I think I might have even did that because I probably bought 10 or 12 albums at one time. But most of them are like $4.78 or $5.65 shipping plus 78 cents, and there's some tax, but 78 cents for each additional album. So I kind of throw those in because I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't mind having that. And, you know, for $2, it'll add to the shipping. So literally $1, Styx, Grand Illusion. This one, he started it at $1, and I'm the only one. He goes, what? Nobody wants Styx? $1. I got it for $1 plus like 78 cents shipping. It was like the total on my charge was like $2 and something with tax. I could not believe this one. It doesn't have the poster. It's got the shrink wrap with the hype sticker. No poster. It was in good condition. I did ultrasonically clean. I listened to it and it had minor pops. I ultrasonically cleaned it and it seems fine. Again, Equinox, Styx, another $2 one. This may have been from a different person. It looks unplayed, but I got this from somebody else. There's another person that sells the same type of stuff, just cheapy stuff like that, and I'm picking up stuff for $2. So I think that was the same. This was kind of cool. I've seen this before and have had my eyes on it before, but never did it, and that's the California Jam. $2, double record set. The thing I didn't know about this album, I know it had Aerosmith on it. The thing I did not know about this until I got it. Okay, so it's like an outdoor concert. It has Santana, it has Dave Mason, it has some band, Heart, Ted Nugent, Aerosmith, Jean-Michel Jarre, I've heard of him anyway, Frank Marino, and Rubicon. Rubicon's the only band that I think most people wouldn't know, but at this time, in this heyday, this was like 1978, Rubicon has 2 albums out. Rubicon is a band that Jack Blades and Brad Gillis of Night Ranger fame started in. They were both in Rubicon. They left Rubicon and formed Night Ranger. So, I assume, doesn't have a listing of who played on here, but it is the time frame when they were in the band, unless they had already left. But I would assume that they are on this album. So I have both of their albums, but I have nothing live, but there's a live album. This was one of the ones he acted like he didn't know who this was. Ian Gillan Band. $2. Nobody else bid on it. Nobody seemed to know who it was. I'm like, you kidding me? I'm not going to tell you. So I'm like, yeah. And so I bid on that. Near minty. I mean, you know, it's just Very good, plus, plus, plus. Awesome. This one, apparently, people must have been doing, maybe they bid on it for the cover, because this I did have to fight a guy for, and that's another Ian Gillan band. Maybe people knew what these were, and they just didn't bid on it. This one went up to like $8. I'm like, hey, it's mine, it's mine, it's mine. I listened to this the other day, and this is a really good record. For the time frame, I was just like, I wasn't as familiar with his older stuff. And again, it is just, I did ultrasonically clean this one, but it looks near brand new. Okay, this one, an OG copy in decent condition for like $2, maybe $3. No heavy petting by UFO. And when I got this one, it's kind of rough and tumbly. The cover is split at the bottom. The inner sleeve was split. And the record itself looked, it was, out of everything I bought, this was the one that I'm like, this guy definitely was wrong on his grade here. I ultrasonically cleaned it. It was just dirty. It looks unplayed now. It looks very good plus. So it looked really very noticeably different once I cleaned it. It looked very dirty. It just looked weird. It just looked dull and gross. Now it's all shiny. Another one I took a chance on. I've heard some people say this is a great album. I've heard some people say it's a really lousy album. I just figure, well, for $2 Tormato, I'll get another Yes album. I listened to it. It's okay. It's not, you know, I'm not a huge Yes fan. I like the classics. I like the hits. I like the modern stuff. I'm an all-purpose Yes fan. I don't know enough about any one era of their time to really be too judgmental. It's a good album, you know, for $2. I'm not worried about it. Same with this one, Odds and Sods by The Who. I don't think I own, maybe I own a Who album. I don't think I have anything of theirs on vinyl. But for $2, I went ahead and grabbed it. The cover's in really rough condition, but the album plays really well. Again, ultrasonically cleaned it, and it cleaned up really nice. All right, here's a funny one. Legend by Poco. Why is Jeff buying a Poco album? Well, a couple months ago, that guy from church gave me all those records that he didn't want, which included practically an entire Poco collection. I think I got like 6 Poco albums. I don't have a big Poco fan base of music. They're kind of a country rock of the 70s. However, I am familiar with some of their songs, one of which is Heart of the Night, which is on this album, and is not any of the songs on the other albums I've got. It doesn't have any of the hits I know, only this album. So I'm like, told my wife, I said, the one we want, because they play this on Yacht Rock Radio all the time. I'm like, the one we want is one with the horse on the front, and we've seen it 2 or 3 times. We saw it in the thrift store. She's like, we're buying it. I'm like, it's $7. I don't want to pay $7 for a Poco album. Buy it. I'm like, no, I'm not going to buy it. So I didn't buy it. $2, I bought it. And so I grabbed that. And this next one, I'm going to blame Boz on over at the Vinyl Guy. A while back, a couple of videos ago, about a month ago, Boz sent me some VCLT, sent me an Alan Parsons Project album. Great album. I didn't spend I haven't spent a lot of time in my history listening to him. I'm familiar with the songs that are hits. So he sent me that album. I'm like, dang, this is really good. It's just kind of in the pocket, laid back. Kind of reminds me of like yacht rock in the sense that it's just soothing, good music. So when this popped up, when Pyramid popped up for $2, I swiped and I bought. So now I've got 2, and it's all Boz's fault. I cleaned it up. It looked really great condition. So there you go. Also part of that same set was the Aqualung from Jethro Tull that I showed the other day, but I branched that off into its own video, which you all probably have seen. If not, go back. I think it is my last video. So in the same batch of $2 stuff, I picked up, and maybe that was one of the ones that went up to 3 or 4, but Aqualung, and was impressed with that. So that's it. Just a bunch of really cheap stuff. Almost everything was under $10. Most everything was under $5, and the majority were $2. Don't get on Whatnot. It's addictive. I'm trying to ban myself from it because I went way too crazy in the first couple weeks. And so yeah, I'm kind of backing off. But you can really find some great deals. Some of that sealed 80s stuff and some of this cheap stuff like that. If you stick to that, maybe it won't be so bad. Anyway, that's it for this one. I'll see you later. Rock on and rock hard.